here we are, we're on to purple, and we're looking at the first technique for our purple belt. Before we go into the overall techniques put together, we need to understand the differences or the intricacies of each part of those. So we have a tie clinch, we have some knees, and there's lots of different types of knees we need to go through. We've got some duck unders, we've got some trips. So just the first part of this purple belt is technically quite complex. So let's go over some basics first. We'll go through the main move, and then we'll go through the basics. So the whole move for the first part of purple belt is a shuffle double cover. So what we're doing there is we're shuffling forwards. We've done this in previous grades where we're creating that shell as great as possible. So we're rounding our shoulders and making all of our hit zones as minimal as possible. From there we're going to go into a tie clinch. Go into detail in a second. I'm just going to go through the move first. We're going to do a rear knee, landing down. We'll go through details in a second. Then we go through a side stabbing knee. And then we go through a jump knee. So before we do all of that together, we need to understand quite a lot of new stuff. First up is the tie clinch or the plum clinch. There's lots of different ways of holding a head. We're just going to go through the real basics here so people get a basic understanding. There's a lot more to this world of clinching. We're not going to go into a huge amount of detail here. So all we're really looking for at this level is to have one hand on the back of the head, elbow in nice and tight, other hand on the back of the head, so my palms are together. My elbows are in, so I'm not out here. This enables someone to duck out really easily. I want to be able to control their head. If you can control someone's head, you control their body. If I've got no real control on the head, they're going to move their body how they want. So, hands together, like a butterfly almost, on the back of the head, elbows in, so I'm really embracing the side of the neck here, which enables me to pull my opponent around really, really easily. All right? So there's the real basics of a tie clinch. From here, let's talk about the knees. Now, there's self-defense knees, there's side knees, there's front knees, there's jump knees. So let's just go over the basics of that as well. What I don't really want to do is when I do a knee, I don't want to just kind of drive it up. From a self-defense angle, this is actually okay because you might just really be aiming for the groin. What we're trying to do here from a martial arts aspect is try and get our knee up between myself and my opponent, and then I want to drive it into them using my hips. So when I've got hold of that head, I'm not just bringing it up like a self-defense move. If anything, this will probably just get me penalised in a match. I want to make sure I bring my knee up and I drive it into them using my hips. Okay, so we're going to shuffle forwards into that double cover first. So from my left stance, we're just showing it at an angle so we can see a little bit better. Shuffle forwards, double cover. I'm trying to make all my hit zones as minimal size as possible. Got to go straight into that clinch. Now there's no way that we've talked about here on the syllabus of how to exactly do that. So there are many tips, we'll go into that later on, but we just want you for now just to grip hold. Keep those elbows in nice and tight. Imagine we've got the back of the head. I want to see that back knee come up and in. Land it down in front. Now we're going to do the next knee. We're not going to do exactly the same. Now I'm going to bring my knee to the side, and I'm aiming for these floating ribs down here. Okay, the ribs that float are floating because they don't attach to the sternum. So my chest plate here has all these ribs connecting, and there's little ones down here that don't connect, so they're really weak. That's ideally what I'm aiming for here. So now the next knee is going to come up and in. So I'm going to rotate, a bit like a roundhouse kick, gone through that before, twist and get that knee into the side. Now the final one, and the most fun one, I'm going to jump up off the rear knee, really pull that knee in, but I'm simultaneously jumping. It's not that I'm doing this, that's another knee, another time. I'm jumping with both feet and landing down. Okay? All in all, it's a lot to go through here. I'm going to show you side on. Shovel forwards, double cover. Tie clinch. Rear knee. Side knee. Jump knee. Again. One more time. When we go up and down the hall, we'll have to left or right turn this. And it might be that you have to perform it off the other side as well. We're going to move on to the second move of purple belt, and I brought Phil in because we really need to see this with a partner first to understand what we're looking for in the open air techniques. So rather than me just teaching and then going up and down the hall, I thought I'd just show you with Phil first because it's quite hard to understand. At least then you get a better picture of it. And then we'll go into the details of showing how to do it up and down the hall and the techniques that we're after. So we're going to do a jab, we're going to duck under with a lead side roll, we're going to do a side clinch, a knee to the head, and then a trip. Now that all sounds really complicated, but this is a great sparring technique. I just need to show you on a partner first. So if we come side on here, so I'm going to start with the jab, and I'm just doing that to initiate an opening and to get Phil firing back. So I'm going to come in with the jab first, just because I want to, if I just stand here and don't do anything, he might not do anything either. So I'm going to throw that jab. Now Phil's going to start throwing something back, so he's either going to throw a right hook or a right straight. I'm going to duck underneath this here. Okay, and duck unders, we've done it on loads of other techniques. Hopefully you can still hear me. I'm going to come around here with my rear arm, and I'm going to start clinching up to the side. So you can see now, if I start bringing Phil around, I've got great control here. I've got a gable grip. It's 2 C's with my hand, linking together. Not linking my fingers, we may have gloves on. So 2 C's, and I've got great control here. I can really pull Phil around and put him to where I need him to. I'm going to bring my rear knee up as I bring him down for a rear knee to the head. And then I'm going to pull him into a trip. All I'm going to do is push my right foot forwards and pull him into my foot. Okay. I'll show you again with Phil just in one direction, but you'll lose my head, so you may hear me less. So I'm just coming with a jab, lead side roll, side clinch. Knee to the head. Notice how I'm off to the side a little bit. I'm not straight in front of Phil. Knee to the head, bring it into the trip. Then moving around. One more time with Phil, and then we'll go into detail on its own. Shuffle jab to initiate. Duck under lead side roll. Side clinch. Rear knee to the head. Rear knee trip, rear leg trip. And then we're done. So now we've seen it on a person to get a basic understanding. Let's go into the detail of what we're after for you to do it up and down the hall on your own. Great, so now that you've seen that technique work on somebody, let's see how we do it on our own, up and down the hall for syllabus or for practice. Okay, so what are we after? Shuffle jab. Duck under lead side roll. So what I'm doing is bobbing and weaving to my lead side. That side clinch now, I'm pretending here, similar to the front clinch, now to the side. Rear knee up, rear leg trip as I pull, same time. Again, shuffle jab, lead side roll, side clinch knee, trip. I'll show you side on. Shuffle jab, roll, knee, trip. Jab, roll, knee, trip. Let's do a right turn and then same again, right stance. Right turn, shuffle jab, roll, knee, trip. One more time, just moving back so I'm in frame. Shuffle jab, roll, knee, and trip. Moving on to the third technique for our purple belt. This is all about leg kicks and leg checks. So this whole purple belt, there's a lot of full contact stuff here. We've looked at the basics of tie clinching, we've looked at the basics of knees, so now we're going to look at the basics of leg checking and leg kicking as well. Alright, so we're going to start with a leg check, then we're going to do a leg kick, hand combination followed by another leg kick again. Now in all of these techniques for purple belt, we're coming back to our original stance. If I start left leg in front, I finish the combination, left leg in front. If I start right leg in front, I do the combination and I finish it, right leg in front. Okay? So let's do this one. I'm going to start with that leg check. Now when I do a leg check, I'm going to show you straight on forwards. Again, this is just the real basics. Okay? If I try and check a leg that's coming around, when I say check on my block, so if someone's doing a round kick that comes around the side here and is aiming for my leg, they're generally aiming for either a calf kick really super low or for a thigh kick here. If I bring my leg up straight in front like a chamber, balance, if I bring it up here, all that's going to happen is my leg's going to get really hurt. A lot of people kind of dig their leg in, like they can take it, and yeah, you can take a few, you really can, and some people can take a lot, but it's going to add up. So we can't have a strategy which is just constantly, I can take any leg kick that comes, because they will, guaranteed, add up, okay? So, I don't want to check by coming straight up. I'm just going to get kicked, I'll be off balance. I need to check by intercepting that leg. So my knee now, imagine this round kick is coming here, my knee needs to point straight towards that round kick. So I'm out to the side. So it's not straight up in front, it's out to the side. Again, I want to try and minimize my hit points. So my guard here is going to be nice and tight. Elbow can touch the knee. There's some styles here where we do a lot of this. I'm not going to focus on too much detail yet. I'm just going to have a normal kickboxing guard. I'm going to keep my elbow close to my knee when I check, and I'm going to bring it out to the side. Next tiny little tip is that I can actually step into that at the same time too. So I'm not just standing here taking stuff, I'm intercepting. Just to break down that gap between their kick and my block. So as their kick comes in, my block is actually going that little bit forward as well. Notice how I'm using my hips, similar to our knee we did in the last technique. So, block, down. This is just the first bit. Check, and down. Okay, so now let's add on the next technique. So I've done the basic leg check. Now I'm going to put it down and I'm going to switch round kick straight back to my opponent. So again, I'm aiming nice and low. I'm not aiming to the body, I'm not aiming to the head, I'm aiming it to the meat of their thigh. We could do a calf kick as well, but let's just keep it to the thigh for now. So it's check, and then a switch roundhouse kick, which I believe is on the second grade. So if you're not too sure about just doing the switch roundhouse kick, go back in the belts, it'll be on the second grade, it'll be on the yellow bar. So, check, leg kick, it's the first part. Again, check, switch, leg kick. Now I'm going to land into a basic boxing combination. Cross and hook, should be happy with all those, we've done all the basics of this before. Rear leg kick on the end, so it's all about keeping it low. Into the legs, I'm going to bring that back. Now notice on this last one I didn't pivot quite as much, I've got a couple of options here. We can pivot all the way through, dropping this arm if you want for extra power, or we can swing it a bit more like a back. It's a tie technique, but we can keep that leg almost facing forwards, really drive this in, and then come all the way back. There's no hard and fast about what we want here. You can do whichever one suits you the best or whichever one you enjoy the most. Okay? So, front leg, check, leg kick, cross hook, leg kick. A couple of options for you on that last one. So when we do this first leg, which leg are we aiming for? We're actually aiming for the inside thigh of their front leg. Okay, so imagine someone, I'm left leg in front, imagine you as person on the camera is left leg in front. I'm aiming for that inside edge of that thigh. So let's picture this now. So I check their right leg. I bring it down. I'm going to kick the inside of their thigh off their lead leg because I'm too far away at this point to kick their rear leg. Cross and hook to set up what I really want, which is that round kick here. And that's to the other side of their lead thigh. I'm going to show you at an angle now. We're nearly there. Check, leg kick, cross hook, leg kick. One last time. Check, leg kick, cross hook, leg kick. And there's your combination for our purple belt.
Hi guys, so we're going on to the fourth technique of purple belt now, which is a switch round kick, cross, body hook, head hook, and then a rear leg roundhouse kick. Okay, so we've already done the switch kicks, they're in the second grade if you want to reference, and the body hook is in the third grade if you want to reference that as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put this combination together. I'll go through it and talk as I'm doing it just to start off with, and then I'll break it down for you afterwards. So I've got that switch kick off the front leg first, so I switch my feet exactly the same way I did in my second grade. So switch, it's a head height round kick. Then I'm going to hit a cross, body hook, head hook, rear leg roundhouse kick, then I'm going to land it down behind me. Okay? So what I'm doing here is, when I switch my feet for this kick, I'm switching my stance. Remember, I don't have to do this massive switch here. I don't want to let my opponent know what's about to happen. So I'm making a small switch. So I'm just leading up enough power in my hips to throw that round kick, because otherwise I would just throw it off my front leg. So it's that small switch to the round kick off the front leg. That will bring their guard up to one side, so I can place that cross straight down the middle. Then I'm bringing the change of levels here, so I'm dropping that weight onto my front foot for the body hook. So I like to throw mine not in a complete straight angle like this. I turn it up ever so slightly, and like Paul mentioned earlier on, is I like to come up through those floating ribs. So I'm turning that body weight onto that front foot, I'm pivoting off, and I'm going through those floating ribs here, and then I'm going to re-cork my body position again. So imagine like a coiled spring. So I'm going to re-cork my position again and come up to the head. Then I'm going to, once I've transferred that weight from the hook here, that weight comes onto my back, and I'm loading off again. So this is a really, really powerful technique. So I'm springing off from here, and I'm firing this back leg kick all the way up into the head of my target. Then back down behind me. So the reason we put this leg back down behind us is just so I'm in a nice comfortable stance again. If I'm hitting a target, it's much easier because my leg hits the target, rebounds off, a bit like throwing a ball at a wall. So when I'm doing this up and down line, it is much harder, but if you can gain the control in your syllabus doing this up and straight up and down the hall, you're going to find it much, much easier when you're hitting the target in real life. So if I just show you from side angle here, I'm going to go to that switch if we go all the way through the technique. So switch round kick, cross, body hook, head hook, round kick, land it behind. A little bit quicker, just straight on. Cool. Hope that helps, guys. If you've got any questions about some of the smaller techniques, whether it be the hook to the body or to the head, try and go back to the previous grades and reference things, and then come back and put it all together at the end. Okay, so a little bit of a different technique for you now, but one you can kind of slightly reference back to in green belt. So on this technique, what we're doing is we're moving backwards and blocking. So it's a rear arm retreat block, uppercut, hook, cross, super. So if we look at the green belt technique, we're moving backwards and blocking. We can just take the same concept there. Instead of putting both hands up for a double block, I'm covering up to one side. So I'm covering up those floating ribs that Paul was talking about earlier. So I'm taking a cover from a body shot. So I move back at the same time that I cover. From here, I use that weight on my back foot to load up my uppercut. So I fire my uppercut straight off the back arm. Same thing, my weight transfers to the front here. I've thrown that uppercut through the middle of the guard. I pivot that hand back and I rotate my hook forwards, and now I'm in exactly the same position again. I've transferred that weight to the back of my foot, and then I can fire my cross straight down the middle. So hopefully I've created a lot of confusion, and this cross hits my target. As I pull this arm back here, I'm now loading up for a Superman punch. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So all of those other moves that we would have done before, what I'm doing here is a little bit like starting a motorbike. So I'm cocking this arm back and shoulder back, and I'm kicking my foot behind me at the same time I'm jumping off of this leg. So I'll just show you from a side profile because it's a little bit easier to see. But one way to sort of practice this is literally just to bring your foot up in the air and just pop from that front foot. So if you can start with that movement here, it's going to be much easier to twist in midair and kick out behind you. So as I've thrown this cross, I transfer my weight to that back foot. I bring this back leg up, lean my weight onto the front, jump off of this front leg. At the same time I kick out, I'm going to extend my cross forwards, and that's where that Superman position comes from. So one more time, cross, rotate back, so the weight transfers to the back of my body, then I transfer forwards, and I kick out and punch at the same time. So it's three things: kick, punch, hop, then land. So I'm staying in the same position. So if you're doing this in your syllabus, or up and down the hall, you guys are normally used to either moving backwards or forwards or sideways or left to right. In this technique, we're actually transferring backwards, uppercut, hook, cross, and then a little pop forwards for the Superman punch. So I should stay in the same position. So if I had a circle drawn around me at the very, very beginning, that's exactly the same place that I should be standing right now. So one more time. Block, uppercut, hook, cross, Superman, and then land back down into that stance. Hi guys, so this technique that we're doing now is our jump spinning hook kick off the front leg. And there's two ways to do this. There's a more athletic version. There's one maybe for people that aren't so athletic, but you can make it just look just as cool and as effective as well. So this is a combination of two techniques. One is a spinning kick and one is a jumping kick. Okay, so we've already done a jumping kick in our green belt, which was a jumping roundhouse kick off the rear leg. So we're going to use some of the elements from that, and one of them being tucking our leg up underneath us. So if you remember me talking about that down the line, or you can jump back to the green belt and have a little bit of a look and see what I did when I rotated my hips around and I tucked this leg up underneath me to make it look like I was jumping much higher than actually I really was. The other one was the spinning kick. All right, so the rotation and the turn that I had in that spinning kick is going to be really, really useful for what we're doing now. So two things I'm going to do here. I'll do the non-athletic version first, but there's still a bit of a jump in it, and there's still that same torque and rotation. It's just not jumping as high and spinning as fast. Okay, so what I'm doing here is, if I'm having to spin off of this front leg, I'm going to have to step around off of this back leg here. So it's the same thing that I did in my back kick and my one-step spinning kick. I rotated my heel round, I looked over my shoulder, I picked up my chamber, rotated, and hooked around at the end of the combination. So if I add that in with the skills that we learned in the jumping roundhouse kick, you're going to find this a really easy technique to do. So it's the one step. When I get to here, I'm rotating round, I'm keeping this chamber nice and tight, and this is where I'm going to jump. So the point that I can look over my shoulder and my chamber's up, this is the position that I'm going to jump in to bring my spinning hook kick round and land it down in front. So obviously that's much, much harder to do it slower than it is to do it fast. So if I speed it up, it's that step, chamber, jump and hook kick. And I don't even really have to jump that high, it's just what I do about that back leg. So that leg that's the supporting leg, when I jump, I'm going to tuck it up underneath me, and it makes me look like I'm jumping just that little bit higher. So it's that one step, jump, spinning hook kick. So one more time. One step, jump, spinning hook kick. Okay. This time I'm going to do the more athletic version. So instead of making this step, I'm going to tuck this knee up to my chest, rotate round, and then spin and jump off of that one leg. Like I said, these are hard to do really, really slowly, but I'm tucking this leg in. Everything has to be as tight as possible. If you think about jumping around in a circle, if I jump with my hands and my legs out, I'm going to move really, really slowly. If I can tuck my body in really tight here, it's going to be really easy for me to spin fast in that direction. So it's the same thing that I do here. I tuck everything really, really tight, and then I only let that technique come out at the end. So that means my rotation's much faster, and I'll find it easier just to jump that a little bit higher because everything's really tight. I'm not spinning in this really like slow, hard fashion, so I should hopefully stay in the air slightly longer. So I'm going to tuck this knee in really, really tight as I spin it round. So it's tuck, spin and land with that leg in front. So one more time here.